The desolate detour. The sun had long vanished beyond the horizon, leaving a trail of darkness in its wake as Mike steered his old sedan down the winding road. It was the night before Thanksgiving, and he was on his way to visit his family for the holidays. A deep sense of longing had driven him to make this journey, a need to reconnect with loved ones after years of estrangement. The prospect of rekindling old bonds filled him with hope, but as he ventured deeper into the night, an unsettling feeling gnawed at the corners of his mind. The road ahead stretched endlessly, flanked by towering pine trees that whispered secrets in the gusts of wind. The headlights of his car carved narrow tunnels through the inky blackness, illuminating fleeting glimpses of the unknown. Mike fumbled with the radio dial, attempting to drown out his unease with the comforting hum of music. But static and silence were the only responses he received. He checked his GPS, which indicated a shortcut through a desolate forest to reach his family's remote cabin. It promised to shave off a couple of hours from his journey, and Mike, tired of the monotonous highway, decided to take the detour. He turned off the main road onto a narrow, overgrown trail that seemed to disappear into the darkness. The forest swallowed him whole, and his heart quickened as the gnarled branches overhead clawed at the sky, casting eerie shadows across the path. The further he ventured into the forest, the more he sensed an eerie presence. His car's headlights flickered, and the radio remained a source of static. It was as though the woods held its own secret, one that it was not willing to share with outsiders. Then, amidst the unsettling silence, he heard a faint, mournful cry. Mike slowed the car and peered into the darkness. There, on the edge of the road, stood a spectral figure, clad in tattered rags. Its hollow eyes fixed upon him, and an unearthly chill crept down Mike's spine. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, leaving the haunting specter behind. As minutes turned into hours, Mike's anxiety grew. The road twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the labyrinthine forest. He tried to use his GPS again, but it displayed only a static-filled screen. Panic bubbled within him as he realized that he was lost. A sudden rustling in the underbrush to his left made him jump. He squinted through the windshield but could see nothing. The forest had become an impenetrable maze, and every rustle and creak seemed to echo with malevolence. An indistinct whispering filled the car, voices that were neither human nor animal. Mike clutched the steering wheel, his knuckles white and his breathing shallow. He felt as though the very woods were closing in on him, conspiring to keep him trapped in this macabre nightmare. The temperature in the car plummeted, and Mike's breath fogged up the windows. He switched on the heater, but it only emitted frigid air. His heart raced as he glanced into the rearview mirror, and his reflection stared back, twisted into a grotesque mask of terror. He blinked, and it was normal again, but the encounter had rattled him to his core. Suddenly, his headlights illuminated something up ahead. A decrepit, ancient mansion loomed in the distance, its windows shattered, and its facade crumbling. It was the only sign of civilization he had seen in hours, and his desperation drove him to pull into the overgrown driveway. The mansion's front door creaked open, and Mike cautiously stepped inside. The air was thick with the musty scent of decay, and a dim light flickered from a nearby chandelier. He called out, but his voice echoed eerily through empty halls. As he explored the mansion's labyrinthine interior, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was not alone. His footsteps were punctuated by the faint, ghostly laughter that seemed to emanate from the very walls. The flickering light cast grotesque shadows, and Mike's imagination ran wild as he saw fleeting glimpses of twisted faces in the corners of his vision. Descending a grand staircase, he entered what appeared to be a long-abandoned dining room. A long table sat in the center, covered with a moldy, rotting feast. At the head of the table sat a figure draped in a tattered, ornate robe, its back turned to him. It seemed to be feasting on something, its shoulders hunched in delight. Mike's heart pounded in his chest, and he called out, "Who are you? What is this place?" The figure slowly turned to face him, and Mike's blood ran cold. Its face was a gruesome mask of decay, with sunken eyes and a cavernous mouth. It grinned, revealing rows of jagged yellowed teeth. With a guttural, inhuman voice, it whispered, "Welcome to our feast." Mike stumbled back in horror, rushing out of the dining room and back into the cold, dark night. He ran towards his car, desperate to escape the nightmare that had become his reality. As he approached, he saw that the spectral figure he had encountered earlier was now sitting in the back seat, its hollow eyes fixed on him. With trembling hands, Mike jumped into the driver's seat and sped away from the mansion. The forest seemed to close in on him, the trees reaching out with skeletal branches, as if trying to drag him back. The whispering voices grew louder, filling his mind with a cacophony of madness. Hours passed, and Mike's car sputtered to a stop on the edge of a desolate clearing. The forest surrounded him, and there was no escape. He was trapped, alone, and at the mercy of the malevolent forces that lurked in the darkness. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the forest seemed to retreat, its sinister presence receding into the shadows. Mike's car roared to life, and he drove away from the nightmarish landscape, leaving the haunted forest behind. When he finally reached his family's cabin, he was a broken man, haunted by the horrors he had witnessed. He tried to tell his family about the mansion, the spectral figure, and the malevolent forest, but they dismissed his story as the delusions of a weary traveler. Years passed, and Mike never spoke of that fateful night again. But he could never forget the chilling whispers, the haunting laughter, and the gruesome figure in the mansion. The memory of that terrifying journey to see his family for the holidays would forever haunt his nightmares. A reminder that some terrors could never be escaped, only endured.